welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make the dead crewmate from the game Among Us. I got a lot of good feedback from my last video where I showed you how to make the crewmate or imposter design for the character, so I decided to make the dead one, and I thought it really turned out cute. So if you want to know how to make this, let's get started. So for this project, I'm going to be using the Red Heart Super Saver yarn. It is a weight 4 yarn and it is in the color baby pink. Then I'm going to be using a 5mm hook for this project. Some other materials you will need is a tapestry needle. You also need some scissors and a little bit of stuffing. Other yarn colors you're going to need is red and white for the bone and the inside of the body. So if you watched my last video, you know that the bottom portion is basically the same. The stitch count for the body is just different. So you want to start by making a magic circle and making 6 single crochets. You then want to slip stitch it to the first stitch you made, and this is just so we know where the row ends and starts. Then you want to chain 1, and we're going to put 2 single crochets in each stitch all around. Slip stitch into the first stitch again and chain 1 to start the next row. For the next row, you want to single crochet in each stitch all around. Then slip stitch into the first stitch, and we're always going to do this after every row. For the next 3 rows, you want to just single crochet in each stitch all around to form the leg. Once you're done, you want to do a chain 1 and cut off your yarn, and then you're going to start on another leg. But when you start on the other leg, you don't want to cut it off because we are going to connect it later. And the other leg is the exact same pattern as this one. Now that you're done with the other leg, we're going to connect these two together. So to connect the two, you want to do a chain 1 on the piece that you have on your hook right now, and you want to go into any stitch on the other leg and do a single crochet in that stitch. To connect the two together, you want to place a single crochet in each stitch all around in this one leg until you reach the other leg. So once you end up with no more stitches to single crochet around, you want to do a chain 1 and you want to go into the next available stitch on the other leg and single crochet into there, and you want to single crochet around the other leg until we reach the front again. This is optional because you can just work in rounds from here, but to remember where you stop the row, you can put a slip stitch in the first chain here that you made. It's just the chain that we use to connect it, and that's how we're going to know we finished one row. It's easier to keep count that way. So to start the next row, you want to chain 1 and do a single crochet in each stitch all around. Once you reach the back here, make sure you don't forget to put a single crochet in that chain, and then you can just single crochet in each stitch around in the other leg. You come back to the front, you want to slip stitch into the first stitch that you made in the row, and that's why I said to do that, because it's really easy to keep count this way. And so for the next 4 rows, you just want to single crochet in each stitch around. And to know how many rows you have, you go to the back and you can count how many rows you have here, and I'll show you how that should look in the end. So I'll meet you back when you finished your 4 other rows. this is how your piece should look like so far. And again, you can turn your work around to count how many rows you have done in the back. We're just going to stuff the piece a little bit. You don't want to stuff it too much because you don't want the top, or like where the body is cut in half, to dome. You want it to be kind of flat, like it was cut in half. It sounds so like gruesome, but yeah, you want it to look a little flat, it's not like rounding on the top. Once you have that done, you want to switch your yarn colors to red, and you want to do a chain 1 with that color. And in the actual game, the color of the inside of the body is just a darker version of the crewmate color. So the stitch we're going to be doing here is a little bit different. We're not going to be single crocheting or anything. We're going to be going into the post of the actual stitch. So this right here is called a back post stitch. Now, to do a back post stitch, you want to go in from the back of that first space, and you're going to go in front of the actual post of the stitch, like I am doing here, and coming back out from the other space, and it's going to like make a curve or something. It's going to make like a border around it. You'll see what I mean. And I'm not going to skip or anything here. I'm going to do this whole row by just showing you what I'm doing, because I don't really know how to explain it. But yeah, you can even look up what a back post stitch is before attempting to do this, because it was really new to me. So yeah, this is how it's going to look like in the end. It just has this like fishtail look to it, and as you can see, you're going to be working in the inside. It looks like it's gonna cave in the inside and be flat on the top. That's why I used this stitch, because it was really interesting when I tried it, and I was like, you know, this works. So as you can see, it looks like you're now working on the top of the piece. So once you're done with that row, you want to slip stitch into the first stitch, and this is what it should look like. From here you can stuff it a little bit more, just don't overstuff it, and you can cut off your pink yarn or your working yarn of the crewmate color. And now we're going to start on the next row. You're going to do a chain 1, and then you're going to do a single crochet in the next stitch and a decrease in the next 2 stitches. So a decrease is putting your hook through the first stitch. Wait, I didn't explain it on that one. Okay, so again, do a single crochet, and in the next one you're going to do a decrease, which is putting your hook through that stitch but not finishing it, and then putting your hook through the next and pulling through all 3 loops. So that's what a decrease is, so it becomes like 1 stitch, and so you want to do that all the way around. Once you reach the end, you want to slip stitch into that first stitch again, chain 1, and we're going to work on the last row. So in this last row, you're going to do a chain 1 and you're going to decrease all the way around. Once you slip stitch into the first stitch again, you're just going to chain 1 and cut off your yarn. You want to make sure it's a little bit long because we're going to sew this close. You can now stuff just a little bit more if you feel like it's still a little flat. You want to take your tapestry needle and thread your yarn through, and we're going to sew the top close. Now to sew it closed, you want to go in from the inside and come out from the outside of the outermost stitch, like here, around each stitch. So it's going to be like a running stitch to make sure this top looks like, you know, when you start a magic circle. Once you went into each stitch, you just want to pull it shut and it's closed. Then you want to stick your needle through and poke it out of anywhere in the project so that the end stays inside the project. And you can cut it off from here. Now before we start on the other accessories, we're going to sew the gap between the legs of the body. So you just want to cut off a small piece of yarn and thread it through your needle, and you're going to sew the bottom portion closed. Now we're going to get started on the bone. This is where I was about to give up on this video. This bone was so hard to film because the lighting was just not on my side and the piece is just really small. So first you're going to make a magic circle and do 3 single crochets. Then you want to slip stitch into the first stitch that you made. Now from here you're just going to do a chain 1 and put 2 single crochets in each stitch around. You want to make sure that you only have 6 stitches in total at the end because you don't want to accidentally put stitches in the slip stitch chain. And once you're done with that, you want to slip stitch into the first stitch. And in the next clip, I'm going to say, or I'm going to show that I did 2 rows of no increases, but you just want to do this 1 row. So you're going to chain 1 and single crochet in each stitch around, but you don't want to add that second row. I actually like removed it when I started putting everything together. So yeah, I forgot that I only did this 1 row of no increases. Then you want to tie a knot and cut off your yarn. And then we're going to start on the next portion of the bone. So you want to do the exact same thing, and you don't want to cut this off because you're going to connect it. Now once you have your 2 pieces, you just want to single crochet into the next available stitch. You don't want to do a chain 1 or anything. You're going to chain directly into the other piece. So once you do this, once I actually single crochet. You're going to single crochet there, and then you're going to do a decrease in the next one. So yeah, a decrease and then a single crochet. You're going to do this alternating pattern all the way around until you reach the front again. And you want to yes, connect it by just single crocheting in the next available stitch on the other side of the bone. Now this is where it gets really tricky because the piece is so small and it's hard to see all the stitches, and it's even in white. I just single crocheted in that first stitch right here just so I know where I started, and then you're just going to do a decrease all the way around. And then once I finish that, I just slip stitch into the first chain again, and then I'm going to just single crochet around here twice, or for 2 rows. I'm going to just single crochet around in each stitch for 2 rows. Then once you're finished with that, you want to stuff this. I accidentally stuffed this a little too much, and I think it was really hard to stuff this, and I should have used like the scissors or the end of my crochet hook to stuff it down, and I actually accidentally ended up stretching it a little too much. So make sure not to put too much stuffing. Then once you're done, you just want to put your hook back on the yarn and tie a knot. And you want to cut off some yarn and make sure it's a bit long because we're going to sew it onto the top of the body. So this is how it should look like, and you want to just thread your hook through the tail end. Then you just want to take the body and position it in the middle at the top like this, and then you want to just sew it on. Then once you're finished, I just poked the needle back into the project and I placed it through and cut it off anywhere on the piece. And this is how it should look like so far. The last thing we need to do is add the backpack. Now to start by making the mitochondria looking thing, we are going to do a chain of 7 and single crochet in the second chain from the hook and down the row. Once you reach the end here, you want to add 2 more single crochets on that last stitch to turn to the other side. Then you want to single crochet down this side of the piece until you reach the end, and in the end you want to add 2 single crochets in that last stitch. Then once you've done that, you want to slip stitch into the first stitch that you made. Then you want to make a chain 1 and single crochet around each stitch. Then once you finish that row, you want to slip stitch into the first stitch again, and you want to chain 1 from here, and for the next 3 rows you're going to single crochet in each stitch. Once you finish those last 3 rows and it looks like an AirPods case, you want to stuff it a little bit before we move on to closing it. Then you want to make a knot, and we're going to cut off some yarn. Make sure this is long because we're also going to use this yarn to sew onto the body and to sew it closed. Now to sew this closed, I'm going to do like I just call it like the shoelace method. I don't know. I just put put my needle through the outside part of the stitch, and I just go like in a zigzag pattern so that when I pull it together it just closes in one piece. Then once you reach the last stitch, you want to just pull it all together and tighten it to close it up, and it should look like this. You want to stick your needle back into the piece and into here because we're going to now sew this onto the body. And to sew it onto the body, I placed my yarn there because I wanted to make it look kind of like 3D, so it's not really sewn on the sides. So then you just want to sew the backpack onto the body, and basically after that you're done. Once you're done sewing everything together, you just want to stick your needle back in through the project, through any part of the piece, and cut off from there, and you're done. I hope you guys enjoyed another Among Us tutorial, and be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell to get notified every time I post, because I will be posting the accessories for the Among Us characters, and I will also try my best to come up with a pattern for the Among Us ghost. So thank you for watching. Bye!